Hello, fellow and future rovers. My name is Kawaku Mordred, and I have a few things to say after watching a video from Naeri GG. I wanted to critique some of the points he made fairly and honestly. My immediate impression from his video was that he may not have played the game himself. Now, he might have, but based on the content presented and the takes provided, I'm not super convinced, especially with how some of the things were done in his video. I have about over 70 hours in the closed beta test tube myself, and my overall response to his is that Wuthering Waves will succeed, and it will not kill Genshin, but that's because Genshin will kill itself. Neri's first point was stating that WUWA is a direct one-to-one from Genshin, and this point is just overtly wrong, and it is the biggest and most off-putting thing he says in this video, which pushes others away from points he made that could have been seen in fair taste. I don't believe that he actually played the beta, because anyone who has would see or has seen and agrees that this is completely false. Anyone who's played and paid attention will immediately notice the better frame rate, movement mechanics, as well as higher quality in the models, the diverse dialogue options, and the fleshed out combat mechanics. Nae-sama's, which is how I will refer to Naeri GG for the majority of this video, his point about not being able to handle the small things versus the larger ones at the beginning of his video also don't hold up too well, because big things literally draw more attention than small things. I mean, it's easier to see a dragon burning down a village than a thief or assassin creeping up on you at night. It's just basic understanding of big versus small. As well as the fact that Kuro Games went out of their way to revamp 90% of their story because they got proper feedback in closed beta test 1 about things that needed to change. If they are willing to change 90% of their story, what it all says that they are incapable of changing or fixing the small things. If anything, I think that in and of itself, that action on its own, proves how far they are willing to go to make sure that we as players, when we play this game, have the best experience possible, and that they will do everything to ensure that our needs are met to the best of their ability. Naeri brings up a fair point about WUWA needing to find its identity, but I would say that it already has. The hologram boss fights, for example, they are energetic. They show the very best of what boss fights in Wuthering Waves will have to offer. Nae-sama tries to compare the innovation of FPS games from PUBG to Fortnite and Genshin to Tower of Fantasy or Wuthering Waves, but this does not hold up very well. And the combat of Genshin is restricted to its elements and their combinations, forcing you to always build your team a certain way. The innovation in Wuthering Waves is the combat system in and of itself, and that's before we get to anything else they have innovated on. The combat in Wuthering Waves allows you to play just about any character you desire at any point in time. You are not being forced to switch every 5 seconds just to deal with a puzzle or a certain enemy type because, that enemy type is resistant or immune to the element you're trying to deal damage with. Wuthering Waves not only has improved the initial feeling of combat, but also made it so you can just play however you like. Genshin is a horrible experience trying to play as one character, while Wuthering Waves is a great experience playing as one character. It's a very team-reliant experience in Genshin beyond the initial starting phase of that game. Even the puzzles in Genshin require you to character swap very often, which was annoying. The majority of Wuthering Waves puzzles and combat settings do not require teams or multiple character switches, save for the gun puzzles and Tower of Adversity, but that's one thing versus the 40 different ways puzzles and combat are done in Genshin. Neisama's point about why Genshin was good for being a 3D anime game only goes so far, because it was released during a literal gaming drought and during a time where a massive percentage of the population was indoors and looking for something to do. During this point, he mentions Kuro games not being on the list he showed relating to an amalgamation of other gacha games. I wish the full source where he pulled that image was communicated so that we would have a better idea of why they aren't present on that list. But a simple Google search will tell you that Wuthering Waves only, or Kuro Games for that matter, only owns 3 games right now, which are Twin Tail Battleground, Punishing Grey Raven, and now Wuthering Waves, which is currently listed as speculated. I imagine they are a smaller company attributed to why PGR wasn't marketed well enough to get attention, as well as their currency systems for being so abstract in PGR. It deterred myself and probably other players from spending on average. On PGR alone though, they have nailed the gameplay loop, so that isn't much to be concerned about. And that's just based off of my short experience with playing PGR, because I did not play it during its inception, but I have played it recently and I did enjoy the innate combat, but I couldn't find myself spending on Punishing Grey Raven because of the various problems that the menu and the currency I thought had when I initially looked at it. But concerning that list he presented, we have to look at the full picture, not just at the parts we like. The saturation of WUWA, which was brought up by Neisama as well, wasn't done to make the game edgy, as he puts it. It was done to define the theme of the world. To be fair, the world doesn't need to be grayscale to always translate a post-apocalyptic event. I think that's one of the few things Genshin does correctly, is color theory. In my personal experience though, the colors were fine, especially after you heal certain areas from blight during side quests in Wuthering Waves. Perhaps the art team could explore color theory a bit more to strengthen the colors of the world and different settings. But overall, I think they've done a good enough job that it is not a massive concern and can be fixed easily by either Kuro Games or the player, provided the player has the equipment. Regarding WUWA's storytelling, and I've seen no one talk about this, is actually good, especially the main scenario quest sequences. The dialogue choices you make have a really nice effect on most of the outcomes. Decisions you make with dialogue options can affect NPC responses directly, and you can gain more context on situations if you'd like. Meaning, if you want more information, there will be a dialogue option to inquire for more information if they didn't already explain it to you. That is literally a leg up on most of the slop Genshin tries to peddle you on its own. In Genshin, they force feed you information you didn't ask for onto you, but it's optional most of the time, if not always, in WUWA. In the very first quest scenario, when you first enter the game, its most notable dialogue is the one with Chishia. It is after you defeat Crownless that she says something about cooking Tacit discords after you absorb Crownless, and you are given 4 options on how to respond to her, and it actually affects the response and flow of the dialogue. I distinctly remember being able to move on with the narrative, directly addressing what she said in one of two ways, or making fun of her for the comments. I thought that was a really cute and well added detail to the story interaction. And this goes even further because that situation, alongside the Ling Yang questline, is that the opening scene in Ling Yang's story showcases this very detail. When you first meet him, you can choose whether to greet and shake his hand or not shake it at all. These small details greatly strengthen the storytelling for WUWA because it further incentivizes you to want to participate in the story. The same cannot be said for Genshin, as they are literally too lazy to do this outside of the Nihida questline. 9 times out of 10 in the Genshin dialogue options will give you some response no matter what, unless it's to poke fun or not poke fun at Paimon, who isn't important at all. Wuthering Waves trusts you not to be a moron by not spoon feeding you information, and even gives you the option to have things explained to you, or you can select responses that move along dialogues. This was most powerfully presented when Scar was introduced, as you can either figure things out for yourself, attack him, or have him explain his motives directly. I've never seen Genshin do anything like this, and this is only the initial story quest for WUWA. So far, I've laid out that storytelling qualities are already stronger than Genshin's, and soon I'll cover the combat aspects. But first, I wanted to quickly point out about moving the text that Nae-sama brought up. We aren't doing that shit. I don't want a paragraph on my screen ever during a story dialogue. Unless I'm opening a book-like item in the game, I don't want to see it. We don't need to move or adjust the subtitle. We don't need to change or reinvent the wheel. Subtitles have always been at the bottom of the screen for a reason. They need to stay there until technology is invented to directly inject, text inside of your mind or whatever. I'll provide the best visual examples I could find before the beta ended, but the font was changed for the game. I'll leave those as links in the description. But to continue, the world, well, it may feel empty at times, that Nae-sama also brought up, but this might actually be to the strength of WUWA since it is post-apocalyptic. It actually feels relatively balanced in what the overworld offers versus what it does not. Genshin actually suffers from overworld bloat because they have too many puzzles and too many camps of useless enemies in the way, impeding the natural feel of exploration. WUWA does exploration better and movement alone, save for the slow gliding. That needs to be sped up by 100%. While running, vaulting over objects, the feeling of not being overwhelmed by 30 different puzzles to do in one area, it's easy going and intuitive. Most of these things do not require you to stop playing your favorite character, which is a good thing. Genshin is a cesspool of switching and changing your party for every little thing, so it's quite annoying versus how easy it is at exploring WUWA with only 1 or 2 characters. Another point brought up by Nae-sama was regarding the gacha, almost mocking it. The gacha in WUWA is unquestionably better. A 50-50 on characters and a 100% chance on whatever weapon you want. Beyond directly paying for characters and things you want, which you can actually do after you obtain them once via buying their duplicate nodes for the characters. What more could you ask from a gacha game system? We aren't stupid. We are aware of what spending money will or won't do. We accept the risk because of that feeling of, will I win or will I lose? Is another exhilarating aspect of gacha games, 10 billion%. I will agree that animation for summoning needs to be stronger. It's actually important that it is, because when people spend money on chances to get items or characters, making it as flashy as possible encourages the justification for whatever currency that player just spent. Whether the justification is real or not is a debate on its own, not really, but if it's not impressive enough, it won't have that slot machine effect, which is important to have players feel comfortable enough to spend on the game. So I agree that the summoning animation needs to be improved. I wish I recorded more of my experiences during the CBT2, but I don't have enough space to hold all of that footage and dexterity to navigate and clip the necessary parts of all of it. But a lot of things in Nae-sama's video video just don't add up well. I can kinda see your point about the ult animations, but to counterpoint that, I'd like to say that the ultimates in Withering Waves aren't necessarily meant to be a massive, all-out flashy attacks, but they are meant to make you feel cool or enhance the personality of characters during combat while enhancing their innate combat abilities. Baichi, for example, has a very sexy ultimate animation. I think she looks so damn good when she does it. In the heat of battle after activating her ultimate, I feel like I want to fight harder and better than before I used it. The design and the way most of these ultimates are done do an excellent job of transforming the energy in these fights that take place or in the character's personality itself. Jian is another great example. As he charges up that spear with a dragon, it's like anything before that point was just him looking cool, but now he is serious and is ready to strike you down with the wrath of a dragon, alone. I agree that some characters' attacks need more oomph behind them. I understand the point Neri GG makes of every character feeling like a sword character, and to some degree, that needs to change, yes. Regarding the hardcore aspects of the game that Neri brought up, it's actually not that difficult. Neri says that difficult does not equal good, but I don't think difficult is the right word here. Unless thinking and learning how to fight an enemy properly is difficult for you, and that's what makes a game good, that feeling of wanting to overcome an obstacle and then doing so gives you a sense of achievement, which is important and something that frankly Genshin does not have. Because in Genshin, never at any point did I feel like, oh my god, I actually beat that boss. I was actually like, can you hurry up and just die already so I can beat this timer or move on to the next thing? That was always my reaction or thoughts whenever I was fighting anything in Genshin. And trust me, this is not a slighted or biased opinion against Genshin because I like Withering Waves more. No, I spent $10,000 on Genshin Impact, and I regret every dollar of it. None of the bosses in Genshin have any sense of accomplishment. They attack random areas and they don't really fight you, they just fight the environment. The only way to get an artificial achievement in Genshin is by artificially limiting yourself by saying or doing, oh, I'll make this fight harder by not using shields or healing, or I'll only fight with this character. That's not intuitive, and that of itself does not breed a sense of accomplishment. So the hardcore you addressed isn't actually hard, Neri. Everyone is making it out to be that, but I think the proper word we're looking for here is challenging. WUWA challenges you to think and adapt and learn, which drives engagement and makes fights much more interesting. You say the game needs experience, but it has so much of that already. All I think about when I think about Withering Waves is Squama in difficulty 4. I think how cool that boss is, how fun he is to fight, and how fucking annoying his clone is when I fight him. The music, the attacks, the rhythm of the beat lights fires in my soul, like when I first watched Goku go Super Saiyan, or when I first watched Shadow go Atomic. I'm thinking about these gameplay experiences constantly. Even the ults on the characters themselves during the fights, they have so much personality. I think anyone who has really played the game probably shares some of these sentiments, if not all of them. The lock-on does need to be fixed, which, when you brought it up, why I wasn't 100% sure whether you played the game or not, or if you're just looking from the outside in. A quick point about the side quest that you did bring up, Neri, is that it's fine that the actual side quests, like the actual side quests, are with NPCs. Because it gives them purpose beyond being background extras that are gonna probably get killed at some point. It makes it so that even unremarkable people contribute to the world, making it feel real. However, when it comes to character stories and main scenarios, I agree that we should rarely be speaking to NPCs, if any at all. But they did add a skip button so you can completely skip side quest dialogue and still know what to do. Another feature Genshin does not have. I will say that perhaps they could even have some future side quests that are actual side quest content have real characters included once the character roster is fleshed out or big enough for that. To conclude this, Wuthering Waves will not flop. This is my overall point. Wuthering Waves will not flop. It may not have the initial success of Genshin or Star Rail, but I am confident in its ability to establish its place in the gacha space and be a powerful contender that will eventually have a better game loop and better player base than Genshin. Genshin will eventually off itself. The Zealots will see to that, but I genuinely believe WUWA is the game that will do well in the long run, as long as they market it properly. It is better than Genshin in its current state in every way, shape, or form. Even with all its flaws, it is better than Genshin, without a doubt. I appreciate everyone for watching, and per the usual YouTube begging, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment on anything you think I missed, that I did well, or that I could improve upon. I hope to create a more engaging content as I grow in this space with you all, and I thank you so much for your attention.